Let's continue working on our scouting app for the FRC 2023 game. In our last couple videos, we finished creating our input form that would allow our scouters to put data into our RLD system. This time, we're going to go over calculations, and we can get started by going to this left side nav and clicking on calculations. Now, this is going to be all the stuff that's going to allow us to get some more interesting statistics out of our data that aren't immediately given to us on the scouting form. And the final goal for this project is going to be to determine the total score that a robot added to their alliance. Now on the left here, you're going to see we have all the fields that we made in our input form. So things like color and comments are there, and we also have all the buttons that we created, as well as things like high cone scored, high cube scored, okay? And if we go to the right here, we'll also see all the functions that we're going to use to eventually get to total score. Now I'm going to break down total score into three parts. They're going to be auto score, teleop score, and endgame score. And this will allow us to do some really cool calculations later on, looking specifically at these things, and also come up with a total score, and then look at statistics on that. So let's start with building our auto score. And we're going to break that down even further. We're going to first get our auto high score. We're going to do our auto low score, and we're going to do our auto mid score. So let's start with this auto high score. And this should be fairly simple. In case you had trouble following along the last couple sections, if we go back to our form and we click on one of the inputs we used to do the high cube scored or the high cone scored, we'll see that the field configuration says that the name for that is high cube scored. So if we go back to our calculations, we should find high cube scored right here, and likewise the cones version of it as well. So in order to get our auto high score, it's pretty simple. We just need to add up our high cones scored and our high cubes scored, and then we just want to multiply it by 6. There we go. Now we just need to repeat this process for the low and for the mid with their respective score as well. Awesome. Now if you followed along closely, you'll notice that I actually mixed these two sections up. That's the really nice thing about RLD. We can just go ahead and change these. There we go, low score. And if I retype this, there we go. All right, so now we have our high, mid, and low score in auto. And if we go back to auto score, we should be able to add those calculated fields into this calculated field. So if we go all the way down on the left here, we'll find calculated fields opened at the bottom, and we'll see all the things that we just created. Let's go ahead and drag auto high score and add auto mid score and add the auto low score. So right now we're most of the way to figuring out our auto score. The last thing that we probably want to do is get the mobility score and the docking score at the end of auto. So let's start with mobility score. So to get started with our mobility score, what we want to do is we want to figure out whether or not the user put yes or no for their mobility. So we'll find mobility right here in our fields. Let's drag this into some parentheses. And then let's go ahead and check if it's equal to the word yes. Now that'll give us back a 1 if that's true, or it'll give us back a 0 if it's not true, which means that we can just go ahead and multiply this by the mobility points that you get as specified in the FRC game manual, which is 3. So now we have our mobility score. The final thing that we have to do is we just have to go ahead and determine the docking score. All right. So this is very similar to the mobility score. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to check whether docking was checked as docked or checked as engaged. And if you're not sure what that means, go back to your input form, go ahead, click on the ending location for auto, and under the choices you'll see we have 3 choices: no attempt, docked, and engaged. And only one can be selected at a time. So let's go ahead and first let's just check if it was docked. So we're going to find our field, which is called end pose according to our input form. And if I go find end pose up here, I can do exactly what we did with this mobility, but instead of check for yes, I will check for docked. And if they happen to be docked, then I know that they get slightly more points in auto than they do in teleop. So I'm going to multiply this by 8. All right, very cool. Now we also want to check if they got their end position equal to engaged. So I'm going to do another parentheses, and I'm going to grab end position. I'm going to check if it equals engaged. And if that's true, then I'm going to go ahead and multiply that by 12. All right, there we go. Now we have our docking score as well. If we go ahead and add the mobility score and the docking score up here to our auto score, we should get our full auto score for each team that we put data in for. And this is pretty easy to check. If you just go to tables over here, we'll go ahead and create a new table, and we'll start dragging in all the calculations that we want to see. So let's start by dragging in our auto score in here, and we'll see we put in a couple fake records from earlier, and we're already getting some numbers out of them. And just to check and make sure everything's running fine, let's go ahead and also get a team number on here. All right, and we'll take a match number. All right, very cool. And we can check this even a little bit more if we want to. We could put things in like auto high score, 0, auto low score, which is 0, and auto mid score. You'll notice we've got a 4 on that one. We could even put in the docking score, check what that was, and then likewise even put in the mobility score. There we go. All right, so we've got our auto score done, and we can check it with this table. And we'll come back to this table a whole bunch just to make sure our calculations are working. Now, this is it for the first part of doing just match-based calculations. In this next section, we're going to cover teleop and endgame as well, eventually making our way to this total score.